Have you ever wondered what is sublimation ink and how to use it? I'm going to go over everything you need to know about sublimation ink today. Now, if you're an experienced crafter, stick around because I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite sublimation tips at the very end. Hi, I'm Crystal. Welcome to the Design Bundles YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell down below because you guys do not want to miss any of our upcoming crafting tutorials. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Question number 1, what is sublimation ink? Sublimation ink is technically science. So you guys remember being back at school in the science lab and doing all of the little chemicals and all of that kind of stuff? This is where it's going to go from a solid to a gas. So whenever it comes to sublimation ink, once you reach at least 385 to 400 degrees, it's going to go from a solid state to a gas, which is then going to form with a poly coating of some sort, whether it's polyester or polyoding on a ceramic cup, and it's going to become one. That's the way I love to describe it, is it technically becomes one with whatever you're pressing it on. So you need at least polyester or polyester coating for it to work, and you need at least around 385 to 400 degrees to get it to sublimate at around 45 to 60 seconds, sometimes even 3 minutes. Now, if you guys have been following me for a while, you guys know that I will sublimate tumblers around 365, but I have it for, almost 2 to 3 minutes because you need a longer time. So there is different ways around that, but technically, theoretically, you really need like a higher heat around 400 degrees to get those gases to form. And then once they do, it becomes one. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into more questions because I know it's burning in your head right now and you're thinking, well, can it wash off and all those? I'm going to get to that, so you guys stay tuned. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Question number 2, how long does sublimation ink last? It should technically outlast the product, depending on how you care for it. Recently, I have learned, for example, if you put a coffee cup, and it could be a tumbler as well, in your dishwasher, and your dishwasher can get up to 385 to 400 degrees, it will slowly start to fade. I did not know this until this last year when a mug that I had made a few years ago for my father-in-law had started to fade. And so I realized our dishwasher was getting a super hot heat. So once you sublimate something, if you press it again at 400 degrees for, say, example, 60 seconds, you're going to reactivate those inks. Now, not necessarily that you will get rid of all of that ink. You definitely won't, but you can pull a majority of it, or at least some of it. You could really fade it out. So keep in mind that depending on what you're doing and how you're caring for something, if I, for example, have a t-shirt or sweatshirt and you're wondering why you're losing a little bit of color, your washing machine, if you're using high heat, could be getting upwards to 385 to 400 degrees, which is reactivating those inks. So definitely keep that in mind. But once again, depending on how you care for it, it'll outlast the product, honestly. It'll last a lifetime. That gets us into question number 3. Can you remove sublimation ink? And the answer is no. Yes, you can fade it out a little bit like I talked about previously, but can you remove it? No. Even if you try to resublimate and get it at those high temperatures, put a blank piece of paper and you think you're pulling it out, you will never completely just wipe it out. So that answer is no. Question number 4, what is the best sublimation ink? Now, I personally, from my tests and what I've been through, I definitely have a lot of inside knowledge. I've actually even been able to go visit the Sawgrass warehouse myself. So I definitely have played around with the Epson and converting with different types of inks. And I have so much to tell you guys there, but we can definitely get into another video to really talk about why I prefer Sawgrass over an Epson. But let's go ahead and talk about the ink. So my favorite inks is the Sawgrass SubliJet UHD. So Sawgrass actually has 2 different inks. They have this one as well as the Siser inks. Now they have actually designed the Siser inks to work along with the Siser EasySubli. Now these inks are supposed to be more vibrant and things like that. I actually love them, they're fine, but the deal is when you have a Sawgrass printer, so this is a tip here, when you guys have a Sawgrass printer, if you start out with, say for example, the SubliJet, you cannot convert it later to the Siser. So you have to start with one or the other. So definitely keep that in mind. Do your research. If you guys are wanting to start out with the Siser, definitely, start out there. Now, one thing I want to tell you guys right away, this is a question I see all the time is, if I get the Siser EasySubli inks, can I only sublimate on the EasySubli? And no, you can still sublimate on everything. These were just designed to be super vibrant on the EasySubli. So it's still going to be vibrant on your tumblers and t-shirts and all of those things. This was just designed to work really, really well with this. Now, also vice versa. You guys have seen me, if you've been here for a while, that I use these inks and I still use it with the Siser EasySubli. Same if you guys had a converted Epson and it's still going to work, but these inks are going to be a smidge more vibrant on the EasySubli because it was designed for that. But one of my personal favorites is the Sawgrass SubliJet UHD. It's one of my favorites, and I definitely think it is the top on the market. Now, whenever it comes to the Epson and converting those with different inks, I have tried several of those on the market. I have tried the Cosmo Ink, I've tried Starcraft, and I've even tried like the Hiipoo brand off of Amazon. I've actually tried a couple different Amazon ones, and what I have found was I actually preferred the Starcraft ink more than the Cosmo ink. So whenever we first started converting those printers and all of those things, the biggest thing on the market was that Cosmo ink. Now, if you have converted an Epson or you plan on converting an Epson, and I didn't mention an ink today that you think is the best on the market, let us know in the comments below because I would love to know, and I would also love to put it to the test as well, or even just share it with your fellow crafters down below. I know there is a lot more out there since I personally have tested, but I wanted to let you guys know, which like I said, I could definitely get into on another video. I actually had 3 Epson printers running at the same time, 3 different inks. I put them all head to head, and like I said, the Starcraft had one for me, even over the Cosmo ink. Nothing against them. That was my own personal test. Now, once again, I definitely had issues with all 3 Epson printers, and I've never had an issue with my Sawgrass. So that's just where that is. But like I said, we're going to stay on the inks. But if you guys want more tips and tricks whenever it comes to the Epson versus the Sawgrass and my true thoughts and what issues I had along the way, you guys let me know down below that you guys would like to see that happen. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Question number 5, can you use sublimation ink on a regular printer? So that's something that I see all of the time. Yes, if you convert it. So say for example, if you just owned like a Canon and it had those little cartridges, you can't. I know that long time ago people would have like refillable cartridges that fill, but we have actually became so much easier nowadays, and you can just convert an Epson printer. You want to use the Echo Tank ones, I believe the Workforces as well, and there's so many numbers when it comes to that. Like I said, I could really get into the meanings of those numbers, and do you need to pay attention to the numbers and all of that in a whole nother video if y'all want to see it. But sticking with the inks and the printers, you could technically convert a printer. Now, like I said, if you think that you can just load this in any printer, you definitely cannot. But if you want to convert it, lots and lots of different inks out there on the market, like I've mentioned before, and you can definitely convert that. Now, when it comes to that, say for example, I bought myself an Echo Tank and I'm going to convert it. Do not stick the regular ink in there. So they come empty. Those tanks are completely empty, but it's going to come with regular printing ink. You want to donate that, get rid of it right away, maybe sell it on the marketplace, and you want to fill it with the sublimation ink. Another tip is that you want to purchase 2 sets of ink, even when it comes to the Sawgrass, when you first purchase your printer. The reason why is when you first purchase your printer, whether it's the Epson or the Sawgrass, you're going to load these in, and the printer is going to go for several minutes of sucking that ink in through the tubes. So what it's going to look like is you don't hardly have any ink at all. Now, I noticed with the Epson, they may seem a little fuller than what the Sawgrass will do, but they really will pull it through all those lines. It doesn't mean you don't have ink. They're just in the printer. So it's always good and ready to have a backup, so whenever it gets time to where it needs to load it in there and you're a little low, you already have them ready to go. So my tip is when you purchase your printer, whether it's a Sawgrass or an Epson and you're converting it, order 2 sets of ink at one time. Question number 6. This is something I see all of the time. Is Cricut infusible ink the same as sublimation ink? And the answer is yes. So Cricut Infusible Ink, they call it their own name. They have these as transfer sheets, and they also have pens. It is 100% sublimation ink, and actually you can even purchase sublimation paint by Artistry. So they have their own markers as well, and they also have paint. So if you want to paint, that is also sublimation ink. So with the Cricut Infusible Inks, what it is full page sheets. So you're going to get in the box a few different sheets. You can also get these in the same size for the Cricut Joy. So you can even get solids as well. You can get patterns or you can get solid colors. And so it's going to look like this. They're going to be 12 by 12 sheets of sublimation. So it's just fully printed. Now, these are going to come out dual just like it would with sublimation. If you guys are new to sublimation, when you first print out your design, until you press it, it's going to be very dual. The exact colors which are going to turn super bright and vibrant is going to be once you press it. It's the same way with the Cricut Infusible sheets because technically it's just printed on a thicker backing that has a carrier sheet and all of that stuff. So they made it thick so you can cut it with your Cricut. Full page sheets, like I said, 12 by 12. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys down here for a second. So for example, this is a really cool like watercolor or paint effect. But once again, with sublimation, you can do the exact same thing, and you can also cut this out. You can load this on your blue mat and still cut it out with your Cricut if you wanted to as well and cut designs out. But you can do full page sheets with your sublimation printer. So 100% identical, it just doesn't have a carrier sheet on here. So you guys can see that this is really, really pretty. These patterns, it comes with several of them. It's completely free. I have this link down below for you guys in case you want to make your very own Cricut Infusible Ink sheets. Now, the thing about it is when it comes to Cricut Infusible Ink sheets, they come in full page patterns like this. They don't come in design. So the difference between a sublimation printer and using Cricut Infusible Ink is you're going to be able to really narrow it down to designs. So yes, you could take our SVG files if you wanted to and say it said softball mom. I could cut it out with these and technically create a design like this that would have the pattern. But if you wanted to have something like this that was, you know, like some sort of design, you couldn't get that with the Cricut Infusible Ink. But Cricut Infusible Ink is going to allow you to sublimate on mugs, t-shirts, tote bags, anything that you can sublimate on with sublimation ink and allow you to get in that. For example, let's just say that these cost $10 a piece. I could start out by $10 instead of starting out around $600. So there is a difference there. So if you're somebody that's just a simple crafter and you just want to sublimate one or two things, I highly recommend that maybe you check out the Cricut Infusible Ink. Question number 7 is the comparison, the difference, if you will, between sublimation ink, adhesive vinyl, and heat transfer vinyl. So how do they differ? What's, you know, how long will they last? What do they look like? Things that maybe they can be put on that the other can't be put on. So let's go over all of those now. So sublimation ink, like I said, is one with the fabric. So for example here, this is a sweatshirt, and this is actually a 50-50 sweatshirt, which means that it's got 50% polyester and 50% cotton. When it comes to sublimation ink, as long as you have around 50 to 65% polyester, you're still gonna get a nice vibrant color. You may lose just a tiny bit, but honestly, it still looks really good. You guys be the judge. Let me know in the comments below if you think it looks really good. So this is a sweatshirt, 50-50. I'm able to sublimate on it. This will outlast the t-shirt. It's going to stay here. It's one with it. You can't feel it at all. It is the t-shirt. It feels like you cannot tell. If I had my eyes closed, I would never know that anything was on here. So that's one of those differences. It's gonna last a long time. It's not gonna crack and break up, and you can't feel it, okay? So that's one thing. But the downfall is I can only sublimate on something that's around 50 to 65% polyester. I can't just straight sublimate without using a third-party product like, you know, say for example, the dye press sprays or things like that, or having to sublimate on top of glitter HTV to put on here. I can't just go on straight 100% cotton without some sort of hack, if you will. Now, another tip here really quickly. Recently, we have discovered that you can take DTF powder with your sublimation inks and you can make your very own DTF transfers. So definitely make sure you guys check that out. I have a video linked above, so make sure you guys check that out because you don't want to miss that, because it's going to allow you to sublimate on 100% cotton. Next up is another fabric. So fabric. For this one, I used heat transfer vinyl in white. So this allows me, number one, to put a design on a black tote bag, because when it comes to sublimation ink, you cannot sublimate on a black garment. Because what happens is the colors, there is no white whenever it comes to sublimation, and those colors basically just bleed off into the black. Technically, if this was polyester, you can sublimate it, you just can't see it. So that's one way to say it. Technically, you can sublimate on black, you just cannot see it. So that is the thing there. So number one, the heat transfer vinyl is gonna allow us to apply a design on the black tote bag. Number two, this is going to allow us to apply a design onto 100% cotton without using a third-party product. So I'm able to put the heat transfer vinyl on this because it's 100% cotton and it's black. It's gonna allow me to do both of those. So there is an up and down, you know, whenever it comes to sublimation ink. So some people get so excited about sublimation that they think, okay, this is great. I can completely get rid of using heat transfer vinyl, but it's gonna eliminate some things. So whenever it comes to this, like I said, without using a third-party product. So that's one of the things. But versus sublimation and heat transfer vinyl, this will eventually over time crack, peel. For example, this tote bag, if I never wash it, it'll probably last forever. If I wash it, you know, say I wash it more than 50 times, it may start to peel around the edges or crack and things like that. It just depends on how you care for it, how you wash it, how you dry it. That's how long the heat transfer vinyl is going to last. But at the end of the day, the sublimation ink is going to outlast heat transfer vinyl. Next up is a hard substrate whenever it comes to sublimation ink and adhesive vinyl. So this is going to be for your adhesive vinyl. So for example, I put this adhesive vinyl on a wine glass. I'm going to show you guys down here really quickly. I'm able to apply this. This is a Dollar Tree wine glass. I would not be able to sublimate on this. It does not have a poly coating. So when it comes to something like this, you may want to use adhesive vinyl. So that's where that can come into play. The thing about adhesive vinyl is you can't throw this in the dishwasher. Technically you can, but over time you're going to peel this off. You really want to hand wash this, dip it in. You really don't want to just let it soak in the sink, hand wash, get it out, rinse it out. So there is a certain way to care for this, and it is going to, you're going to lose pieces over time and all of that. There is a time and place for adhesive vinyl where it's going to work for something. Like I said, this would not work with sublimation, but it's going to work for adhesive vinyl, but you're going to lose those pieces. So for example, on this coffee cup, I put, this is sublimation ink. So I'll kind of bring you guys down here really quick. So this one right here is a design that we had, and then I just added a font here. So I did that right inside of Canva, and then I have one on this side as well. So for this, if I care for it properly, especially if I just wash it in the sink, this is going to outlast the mug. It is going to look gorgeous. It's going to stay bright and vibrant. But like I said, I have recently found if your dishwasher gets to a super high heat, you will eventually fade this. But this is one with the mug, like I had talked about those gases, this is one with the mug, and it just looks absolutely gorgeous, and it's there. You can't feel it. Whereas with the adhesive vinyl, I can feel that. So that's the difference there. It's the same thing whenever it comes to the metal tumblers, same thing with the dishwasher, hand washing, and all of those kind of things. Because with tumblers like this, you can also apply adhesive vinyl, but those are gonna come off, where this is gonna last forever. So lots and lots of different things whenever it comes to comparing those. So there's a time and place for adhesive vinyl and HTV, as well as sublimation. All right, so now that we've covered those sublimation questions, let's go over a few more tips and tricks. Whenever it comes to your sublimation ink, in order to keep your printer going smoothly, I highly recommend that you keep this guy plugged in and turned on. So what happens is every once in a while you're going to hear your printer go off and go tut, 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 tut. And what's happening is it's sending it's just minute, just shuffling and moving ink in the tubes, so that way it's not sitting there and gunking up or getting hard. So if you do that, your printer is going to keep itself completely clean. You're not going to have any sort of clogged lines, whereas when it comes to an Epson, you don't have that luxury. So as a crafter, talking to a crafter, unless you're sublimating as a business and you're printing every single day, you're going to clog those lines. So if you're a crafter like me and you may use this today and you may not use it in 6 months, I highly recommend a Sawgrass because like I said, it's slowly going to clean it. As long as you keep it on and plugged in, you're going to be good to go. Now, if something happens where you print it out and you start to see your lines, all you simply have to do is do a print head clean. If you guys want to see how to do something like that and how easy it is, definitely let me know in the comments below and we will walk you all the way through that. So it is simple as that, and when it prints it out, it's going to show you a little guide, and if you're missing any bars, you're going to run it again. Usually, if something like that happens to me, I may run it 2, possibly 3 times, and you're good to go. So once you print that design and you see those lines, just go ahead and back up and go in and do that print head clean. Now, if, say for example, you have the Epson and you don't have the luxury of it cleaning the lines and you are a crafter, make sure that you just print something at least, once a week or so. That's at least gonna keep those pipes flowing. Just highly recommend that you do that. But pick a design that you're actually gonna use later. So you already have it printed. So the really cool thing about Sublimation Ink as well is if you print on your sublimation paper and you stick it in your drawer, you can still use it 2 years later. It is not going to ruin. It is not going to go bad. So store those, put them in your little envelopes. If you guys want to see how I store my extras, let me know and I'll definitely show you guys that as well. But that's just another tip from me. And that's one way to keep your printers clean. The Sawgrass, you don't have to do that, but the Epson, you definitely do. Print the designs you're going to use later, whether it's a full mug wraps or t-shirt designs or whatever. Print those, store them for later, and you can use them whenever you would like. And one of my last tips here is whenever it comes to using your Sawgrass printer with your inks. So a question I see all the time is, how come your ink looks more vibrant than mine? I go into my Print Manager settings and I choose vibrant settings. So all you simply have to do is go to those settings and just simply change them to vibrant. So they have like a photographic one, and then they have the vivid. The vivid is the most bright and vibrant. So if you ever wonder and you own a Sawgrass and you're like, why is your colors a little bit more vibrant than mine? That is why. Another thing whenever it comes to using the Print Manager with Sawgrass is you can actually adjust your colors. So say for example that I work for the school and I really want that color to be identical to our, mascots or school colors or whatever it may be, or even you have a business and a logo and you really want those colors to match and you know the RBG code, you can definitely put that in as well in the Print Manager and get those colors to be identical to what you need. So that's another tip as well. Now I know whenever it comes to the Epson, there is a few different, I believe, programs that you guys can download to get those settings. So if that's something that you guys want to see as well, let us know and we'll definitely do that. Now another question I definitely want to ask you guys whenever it comes to inks, if you guys want to see more or you guys want to know my thoughts on the Epson printer and you guys want me to do a whole Q&A on that, like I said, let me know in the comments below because I definitely want to make sure I'm covering the entire way around. Now, I would never sit here and recommend something to you guys just because, for example, somebody told me to. This is the printer that I started with. These are the inks that I started with way back. I always want to say it's been so long, 2015, 16, somewhere around there. And I have started with these and I'm still using them. So I actually still even have the same printer because the only difference that they did like a year later when I purchased mine was changed it from a Wi-Fi, from not a Wi-Fi to a Wi-Fi. So I still own my other one. I believe it's the Sawgrass SG500. So I still own that and it still works as well. So it just doesn't have the Wi-Fi. I have to use a USB to cable. But I've had no problems with this, but I have had problems with 3 different inks and 3 different Epson printers, and they all did the exact same thing to me, and this has never done me wrong. So I'm only going to recommend something to you guys that I highly recommend, and that is the Sawgrass. So if you guys are a business owner and you're using the Epson and you're using it every day, you shouldn't have a lot of problems. But with this Sawgrass, this is perfect for not only a business but a crafter, because it's going to allow you to let it sit there for a year and it's going to keep your lines clean. Now when it comes to ink as well, there may be something you don't realize with your Sawgrass printer. So when you open it up and you actually get it started, you may wonder what that tank is for. So when it's doing that little cleaning and it's like dun, 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 it's dropping that down in here, so you're going to notice on the screen and it's going to tell you when that starts to get full. So once it does, you'll pop that out and you'll just pop a new one in. And I'm going to be honest to you, since I've had my sublimation printers, and I've had, like I said, the SG500, this one, and the 1000, that's the only ones I've had. And I've only had to replace that cartridge one time. So they really do last a very long time. And another question with the inks as well that I get is, how long do they last? If you're a crafter, you're not gonna buy ink very often. I know these are expensive, but you will not buy them very often. I promise you that. So you may not buy inks for 2 years compared to where somebody that owns a business may have to purchase them every few months. If you're a crafter, they are going to last you what feels like a lifetime. I know they say they expire on there, but so far I personally have not had any issues. So there is another one. All right, so I hope that this has helped you guys. If there's anything that I have missed whenever it comes to sublimation ink, you guys let me know down below. Or if I didn't answer something that you guys are curious about, also let me know down below like I said. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button down below and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.